this is Felissa Rose. I'm Angela from Sleepaway Camp, and you're listening to Rock Video Rental.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Rock Video Rental. I'm Brandon, and with me, as always, is Caleb. And we are continuing on with Rocktober 5. And today we're going to be talking about a very interesting slasher movie. One of my favorite slashers, and we're going to be talking about Pieces. It is from 1982 and it is directed by Juan Piquer Simone. The plot is the co-eds of Boston College campus are targeted by a mysterious killer who is creating a human jigsaw puzzle from their body parts. That is one of the most amazing plots that I've ever heard.
They
Uh,
gave it away though, man.
yeah, it's true, but I mean, the poster for it has like a woman, it's like a big chainsaw and a woman laying under it who's like all stitched together, and the tagline says, "It's exactly what you think it is."
True.
And then there's also another poster that says, "You don't have to go to Texas for a chainsaw massacre." But the cast, we got Christopher George. Of course, he's playing a cop. He always does. It's Lieutenant Bracken. Linda Day George, his wife, is playing Mary Riggs. Frank Bana as Sergeant Randy Holden. Edmund Purdom as the Dean. Ian Sarah as Kendall. Paul L. Smith as Willard. Jack Taylor as Professor Arthur Brown. And then there's a whole bunch of characters in here that we only meet for like a second and then they die.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and then a bunch of dead girls.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. This movie. I
Yeah.
remember the first time I saw it, I laughed really hard, especially at some of the dialogue and especially at that ending, which we'll get to. Uh, this movie, I consider like one of the more fun slashers. It's pretty brutal in parts and
Mhm.
mean-spirited, but at the same time, like I said, some of the dialogue's clunky, the acting performances are really wacky, and the whole idea for the movie is just ridiculous.
Oh,
But
well, one thing I do want to say before going too far, if you are listening to this episode and you have not seen this movie before, highly recommend you stop and you watch the movie because
yeah,
it is an experience that you want to go in with a fresh slate. Like you don't want prior knowledge of some things before you
yeah,
watch it.
similar to like Sleepaway Camp.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
you
That's
want to
totally.
go in and you want to watch that kind of blindly or having a rough idea what it's about. Um, and Pieces is kind of the same way. I actually saw this in the theater 2 years ago
Okay.
as part of that horror movie marathon.
Was that the first
And
time you saw it?
no, I
Okay.
saw it, I think, 2 or 3 times before that, and I've seen it probably about 4 times since. It was on the last drive-in of Joe Bob Briggs, so I've watched his um episode on it a couple times. It's actually what I watched to prepare my notes and everything for today's episode. Um, and I have 2 copies of it on Betamax.
Mhm.
The first one I got lucky and got it for super cheap, and then I saw another one pop up on eBay for super cheap, so I grabbed it and I was just gonna use it for trade bait with someone.
Rock.
But yeah, it's like I said, it's one of my favorite slashers. It's the dude that directed Hostel, Eli Roth. It's
Okay.
his favorite slasher movie.
Hmm.
I heard him on Talk as Jericho one time talking about how much he loves this movie
That's funny.
because of how crazy it is. It is a very entertaining movie. I'll say that.
Well, dude, it just um not to get ahead and kind of get things out of place, but like kill after kill after kill. Like I don't even know how many people died in
It's
this.
it's balls to the wall, I'll say. It starts off. I counted 8 deaths. There could have been more. Usually I check and get like a the official body count from Dead Meat.
Hmm.
Um, here we go. I guess I can get it. Um, Hey, there was seven, but I counted eight. Interesting. So maybe the girl at the beginning who crashes into the mirror doesn't die?
Yes, thank
Because
you.
I
Can we
put
talk
girl
about
with a
that?
mirror? Question mark?
Yeah, can we talk about that? What was the point of that?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, that's a good question because I had that same question and I go to the guy that I always go to, and that's my friend Jack, who's seen every single slasher movie you can think of, and he's really insightful about movies and everything. Um, I asked him like what was really the point of the girl, crashing into the mirror? Uh, and like why did that happen? Because she wasn't part of the puzzle.
Yeah.
Like he didn't take a body part from her.
Yeah, is she I don't is if she died, she was not killed by the guy. Like, so what was the purpose?
Okay, from what he told me, and I looked it up in the trivia and facts too, and it checks out. The actress who is on the skateboard and crashes into the mirror is the same actress who gets her head cut off shortly after that. So, if you remember at the beginning when the boy's putting together the nudie puzzle and his mom
Yeah.
comes in and like berates him, she breaks a mirror.
Yeah.
And when that girl, and then he kills his mom with it, hacks her up with an axe, which is brutal.
Yeah.
Um, and then the cops come in and they think he's a victim too, and he gets kind of gets away with it. Um, Once she crashes into the mirror, it kind of like sets him off. It's like a trigger for him, and that's when he
Was
starts his rampage.
so was he there? Was
It would happen on campus, and well, I don't want to ruin who it is, but I'll say it right now because we already gave the disclaimer. If you haven't
yeah.
seen it, the killer is the dean.
But yeah,
So
so I mean I kind of can understand that and everything. But I didn't see him or I don't remember seeing him even around there.
yeah, I mean, I guess if it happened on campus, then he would know about it, especially something like that. But like, it's the same girl in the scene where she gets her head lopped off, and she seems to be unscathed.
Yeah.
Also, that scene cracks me up because like she's riding around on a skateboard. She's not very good at it because she's like kind of wobbling to keep her balance, and she's like waving at guys and stuff. And then all of a sudden she looks in this mirror. These two guys are walking out with a mirror, cliche in a movie there. Um,
hmm
and then she's like, ah, but she doesn't just jump off the skateboard.
Or fall.
Yeah, or fall. Like you're literally 15 yards from this. Like all you have to do is jump off. Like I
Yeah.
would rather skin up my knees or land on my butt or my elbows or something like that, and break my arm than go through a mirror.
hmm So if they had shown, and maybe I missed it, but if they had shown that the dean was like basically right there in the vicinity to see it, then I would understand it more that that would be kind of like a trigger thing to set him off.
Yeah,
But if it was something that basically he just heard about happening on campus, that wouldn't make sense to me.
it wouldn't have the same effect, no.
Yeah.
But in order to have that kind of connection, they would have had to think that through, which I
Yeah.
don't think a lot of this movie was really thought through. Uh,
Mhm.
yeah, that was the reasoning chat gave me for it. I'm like, you know what? I'll take it because I have nothing.
Yeah.
Oh man. Um, I guess things that are good in this movie. I'll start from there before we get into like more scenes, but that had to be mentioned. Um, I have that with many of the slasher movies from the 80s that involved like because it's got like Italian actors in it, it's got Spanish director, it's shot in Spain, and it's got American actors in it. Um, Much with many horror movies that involved like Italians and Spaniards in it, all the women are beautiful. I said, like, if you noticed that, um,
hmm
that he uses for his puzzle, I guess. The dean. I thought he was pretty decent as a character. With his accent kind of made me laugh because the way he talks to the groundskeeper, like it, groundskeeper's name's Willard. He's like Willard. It always makes me laugh. I don't know why when he says Willard. And then one thing I wasn't sure if it was bad or if it was good, the music.
Yeah, it
It's
was.
it's it's different.
Yeah, it was adequate.
Yeah, it was decent enough for me to notice, but like not bad enough to like really stand out and be like, man, this is terrible.
Hmm.
And we go from Suspiria, which has some of the best music in horror, to this, and it's kind of hard to compare those two because there's two completely different styles and two completely different movies. But I thought it was competent music.
Yeah. No, Suspiria is like a complete and, as you've said before, a artistic movie. This is definitely one where you feel like it's more of just a slasher movie, a horror movie
Yeah,
for the kills and the scare
it's a body
factor.
count movie. Yeah,
Yeah.
and special effects, which is what I had for great. The special effects were great.
Yeah.
The practical special effects really good. Um, as far as things that were maybe bad, and I'm gonna take this quote from Joe Bob from the episode he did. He said, "It takes a decent amount of talent to get a cast full of nobodies and have them bring their best performances, but it takes real talent to have a cast full of highly touted actors and have them bring out their worst performances." And that's what Pieces does.
Oh no.
Uh, which I don't think the Dean was decent, but really any of the other actors, like, they weren't really bringing their A game. I guess the guy that played Kendall was okay. Like the
Yeah.
main guy, he was all right, especially since I don't think he did anything after this movie.
Wait, you don't think that Linda Day George had an Oscar award performance?
Oh man, when I start talking about favorite quotes and favorite scenes, we'll talk about her line delivery. But I don't, she's just, there's something about her. She's like charming and likable. And she seems like, because I've seen her in other movies too, and she seems just like a genuine sweet lady.
Hmm.
And I don't know, her acting in this is not very great. And even, Christopher George too, who was in tons of movies where he did a better job. Um, Other ones I can think of, he was in Grizzly, which is like a Jaws ripoff, some of the enormous bear. He's pretty
Okay.
good in that. Oh man, he was in a Fulci zombie movie, like City of the Living Dead, I think. He was pretty good in that. Couldn't think of the name of it. Um, he's and he always seems to play a cop. Like anytime he pops up in a movie, he's a cop. Just like John Saxon, who we've come across quite a few times doing this show too.
Oh
He
yeah,
was
yeah.
Nancy's dad in Nightmare on Elm Street.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, they always play cops, but yeah, this one he's got some clunky line deliveries to it, and maybe that's due to the script and the writing. I don't know, but yeah, some decent name actors putting in clunky performances. I guess we can some of the scenes and stuff. We've already mentioned the Dean as a kid hacking up his mom. That's really brutal. How much blood there is, and just it's a legit kid killing someone with an axe.
Yeah.
Which there's another slasher movie called Nightmare, and it also has another title of Nightmares and a Damaged Brain. And it starts off with a scene similar to this, but it's like a boy hacking up his mom and her boyfriend. And yeah, it's really brutal like this too. Like there's blood splatter on the kid, and he's like just going to town with an axe. But and I used to get those two mixed up, but I've seen this enough now that I know where that scene comes from out of context. Uh, the title screen is equally great and cheesy. that was just pieces in this like globby font and a knife. And like the music that goes with it is just so corny that it just makes me smile.
Yeah.
And
No,
it's
that
such like a, you had that crazy scene with the kid hacking his mom up with an axe, and then it's like the cops show up, and then all of a sudden, boom, the title screen. You're like, what did I just watch? And you're like, you got this black screen that just says pieces on it with a knife.
Oh, well, talking about performances, how about his aunt or whatever
Yeah,
at the beginning?
yeah. She's very nonchalant about the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like, oh, well, she's dead. Well, she shows up and like no one answers, so she calls the cops.
Yeah. And it was like instantaneously
Yeah,
it's just like, oh, something's wrong.
yeah, and that not like they could be gone somewhere, unless she already called and said she was coming.
But even then, it's
Yeah,
just like,
even
oh,
then, it's
maybe
like
they
maybe the
left.
yeah, maybe they're upstairs. I didn't give them 2 seconds to come downstairs. Maybe the mom's taking a dump. Who knows? And a kid can't answer the door. Uh, then we get like a guy all dressed in black opening up the box and like pulls out the shoes and the dress of the mom, and they're still bloody, and like they didn't take those for evidence,
I know
or they
I
did
had
and he
that.
got them back. I don't know, but it seems like it still be like an open case.
Yeah, I had that in my notes. I'm just like, oh, it's a good thing they didn't need those for evidence.
And I love how the blood just looks like somebody threw red paint on the shoes
Oh, for
because it's
sure.
opaque. Like blood drying on black shoes is going to just be shiny. It's not going to be bright red because
Yeah.
there's no. It's like you'll understand this. It's like screen printing red on a black t-shirt.
Yeah.
It's not going to be bright and vibrant unless it has white behind it.
Hmm.
Uh, then it goes into the skateboard girl that we talked about. And I counted. She has a legit 7 seconds to move and doesn't. And it's very reminiscent of Michael McDonald, the guy who played Stewart in Mad TV on Austin Powers. And
Hmm.
Austin's on the steamroller. And he's just like, ah, stop. And Austin's like, get out of the way, man. And he just stands there. Oh, that's what it really reminded me of. We get lots of shots too of like the dude dressed in black putting a puzzle together.
Hmm.
And he like puts the head on the puzzle. And then the next scene, he like lops the girl's head off. And that's brutal as hell. They show her like laying in the grass studying. And like all of a sudden, dude walks up with a chainsaw and just cuts her head off in one fell swipe.
Yeah.
And it's so quick too, but it's really effective.
Hmm.
And then he takes her head. Um, and then we get one of the funniest quotes, and a quote when I saw this in theater that made the entire theater laugh. There's like this group of students, and they're talking like, "I heard the school just got a waterbed," and they're all smoking pot, and then one girl says, um, "The most beautiful thing in the world is smoking pot and having sex on a waterbed."
Yeah. I had that in my notes too on being like, yeah, this is a normal college conversation.
Yeah, and then she walks up and like talks to the professor basically to like get him to look at her boobs. And it's really awkward. Like, what are the pecs? My friends say mine look funny. And that's really, really weird dialogue.
Yeah. Definitely
Uh
something that wasn't necessary.
yeah. Um Another weird scene. So we this is when we get introduced to Kendall, who's like the main guy on campus. And apparently like one hell of a stud,
Yeah.
which I don't understand because he's just an average looking dude.
Hmm.
Um, but this girl is like making googly eyes at him at the library, and she gets up and hands him a note, and he reads it, and it's in her voice, and it says, "I want to do it underwater. See you in the pool." And then he just like laughs and he throws the note away. We're like, this dude is such a stud that he can turn women down that are like very forceful like that. And like I said, all the women are attractive in this movie. Um, and that's when we get her death scene. And it cracks me up because she is wearing like a sweater and jeans, and she takes her sweater and jeans off and she has a bathing suit under them.
Hmm.
Like she was just planning to swim the whole time.
Apparently.
Like she just wanted to do it underwater so bad that she was just waiting in the library for a guide. Kendall just happened to be there. And then she gets pulled out of the water by a net around her neck. And then she like lays there and like she's reeling from it. And the dude walks up with a chainsaw and she just like kind of lays there like, ah.
Yeah, she doesn't even like try to roll back into the pool or anything. Like,
Yeah.
doesn't try to get away, doesn't really even scream.
Yeah. Just like has a terrified look on her face. Of course she's topless because it's a slasher movie from the 80s. And she gets hacked up and he like steals her torso.
Um, so I think so.
I believe that's what it was. He steals her torso. Yep. Um, oh, while the whole scene too, where she's swimming, we get some pretty bad music. We get that sweet saxophone.
Oh yeah.
It's almost like borderline 70s porn music or something. And it's right after she gets lopped up that Willard walks in and he finds Kendall and a bloody chainsaw, and then he like starts fighting with him. And that's when the cops like jump Willard because they think that he's like the guy that did it, because he was seen with a chainsaw earlier because
Hmm.
he's a groundskeeper. But they, quickly find out it wasn't him. But it just cracks me up like how often women are like throwing themselves at Kendall.
Yeah,
And he's
throughout
like
the
telling his friend, like, oh yeah, like had this girl kind of thing. And he's like, man, how do you do it? Uh,
yeah, and that I
so
mean like college girls, older women, like everybody, and it's just
yeah,
it was weird. It was very weird.
yeah, Kendall the stud. But this is when we get to meet Linda Day George's character too, and they're gonna put her undercover because she's a tennis professional, and she's gonna be like the tennis coach or whatever. And she's like working with the cops to try to figure out who the killer is and finally crack down on it after the second person gets killed. And um, they show her playing tennis, and it's obvious that like Linda Day George is not a good tennis player, and she's supposed to be a professional. They do a decent job of like cutting around it, but like even the stuff they show, it's just like, yeah, I don't know much about tennis, but I know you're not good.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe they should have found a different way to try to convince us that she was a tennis professional.
Yeah.
Maybe
Right.
just coach, don't
Yeah,
play.
like give her some terms and be like, this is what you got to do. Like tighten up here, do this, get a better grip or whatever. Just throw at some stuff. Um, or use a stunt double.
Yeah.
Anyway, we get the next kill because this movie just like speeds along with the kills. We get a girl in like a blue dance suit and she's like practicing her dance or whatever, and she gets chased into an elevator, and the killer gets in the elevator with her and like has the chainsaw behind his back, and she doesn't see it.
Yeah.
She turns the elevator on and then he stops it and she's like, what are you doing? And he pulls out the chainsaw and starts it on the first pull, which never happens. And then he just like lops her arm off like it's a hot knife going through butter. Like
Hmm.
that's brutal too, but it's funny how fast it flies off.
Yeah.
And then it's just like spraying blood everywhere, and of course Kendall and the cops show up and um find her, and like the killer takes her arms. So now he's got like a head, torso, and arms. And then
Well,
we get another scene, huh?
Oh,
I was
go
like,
ahead.
I
Maybe
was gonna
you're
say
moving to the scene.
I was gonna say we get another scene of Kendall being a stud
Yeah, barking. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
with the
Well,
girl, and the girl's like screaming,
yeah.
and she's like, "Oh, come back, please!" And he's saying that she's loud, and like the cops told Kendall he has to keep an eye on Mary to make sure that she's okay.
Hmm.
He's like, "This kid knows everybody on campus and knows his way around. Like, it's good to have someone on the inside that can help us out."
well, yeah. So he left the girl because he saw what's her name, the lady,
Yeah.
and then he goes out, and that's when she runs into the Asian guy.
Yes. Yeah. That's an amazing scene. Um, I do have a quote from that girl that he was fooling around with. It always makes me laugh before we get to that because I want to
Okay.
cover the kung fu scene for sure. Uh, there's a when he's like trying to leave, she's like, "Don't leave, come back." He's like, "Let's do it again." He's like, "If I'm too loud, you can just gag me." And I'm like, "What is this dude bringing to the table?"
I know, right?
Oh man. Okay, then we get Mary walking along, and all of a sudden this Asian dude jumps out and starts like kicking and punching at her and acting like Bruce Lee,
Hmm.
which this guy is played by Bruce Lee, who was one of the guys that like capitalized on Bruce Lee's popularity after he passed away. And so he's like kicking and punching at her, and she just like I wrote down that he takes him to Dick Kick City. Just pops him in the balls and he falls down. And that's when Kendall shows up and he's like, "Are you okay?" And she's like, "This random guy just jumped me." And he's like, "Oh, that's Mr. Blah, blah, blah. Like, he's my kung fu instructor." And he's like, "Oh." And he's like, "I'm sorry, I don't know what got into me. Bad chop suey. Okay, goodbye."
Yeah, and that
And
was
then just
it.
runs off.
Like he
Yeah, it was
clearly
so
was
random.
attacking her.
Yeah. Oh, and then probably something only I would really realize, the motorcycle that Kendall's driving is a Montesa,
Okay.
which is a Spanish brand of motorcycle, because my dad is like super into old dirt bikes and like he has a couple Montesas and I told him about it and he watched this movie just to see the dirt bike. And then like after he watched the whole movie. And then he texted me and he said, "Yeah, that guy's dirt bike needs a tune up because it's smoking really bad." Which is something my dad would only realize. But there's this reporter that's going around too the whole time, like trying to figure out what's going on. And obviously the dean wants nothing to do with her because he doesn't want her to like find out. Well, she's the next one to die.
Hmm.
She gets stalked, and then we get to see the infamous waterbed,
Yeah,
the aforementioned waterbed. But she's not smoking weed and doing
having
it on it.
sex.
She
Yeah.
gets, yeah, tackled on it. And I think this one is one of the most disturbing ones
Okay.
in a slasher just because of how much she fights back. And like, I, I talked about how I thought the Dean might have been the best actor. And I think this woman, her performance, like while she's getting killed, is like the best in the whole movie. It seems like really realistic and like, it's disturbing to me because of how terrified she's acting in it.
Yeah. No,
And
she
like how
did
much she
good.
fights back and struggles and like how the dude in black is like just hacking at her with his knife and like he misses a few times and that's when like the waterbed burst and then she
Well,
gets stabbed through the back of the head and it comes out of her mouth.
yeah, the effects were pretty good, and then also the like she was killed and then she was face down in the waterbed.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of traumatic.
Yeah, and it probably wasn't until like maybe the third or fourth time I saw this movie where I like really had an impact on me. I was just like, dang, like that it's such a simple kill, but it's really effective because of like the performance the woman puts in.
Hmm.
But um oh, and after Kendall takes Mary home, she's like, "Oh, thanks for walking me back." And he's like, "Don't you want to make coffee?" Like
It's-
trying to get in with her, and she just like looks at him. She's like, no, I'll see
he
you tomorrow."
he finally got turned down one time.
Yeah, and then like his friend pops out of nowhere with a crazy mask on and scares him, and then he calls him Casanova and makes a fart noise and runs away.
Yeah,
That's really random. One of those quirky things in this movie.
definitely just added for a jump scare.
Oh, for sure. And then the scene after that, we get the girl playing tennis, and then a marching band music starts blaring, and it's like so freaking loud.
Yeah.
That's another thing I really remember from this movie of watching it the first time. Um, and when she's done, she goes in the locker room and she showers. And of course, she puts pants on, but she's got no top on because, boobs. And the killer comes in there and stalks her, and she's like, is running. And like, her acting job in that is really good too. Like, this has some of the best acting in like death scenes in a slasher movie.
Mm-hmm.
This, like, the terrified looks on her face, and that she tries to get out a door and the door's locked, and like her last resort is to run in the bathroom, and she hides in a stall, and the dude busts the chainsaw out, and he like cuts a big triangle shape in the door, and you can like see her huddled in the corner like terrified, and that's a really good shot.
Yeah.
The camera angle going through that to like focus in on her,
Mm-hmm.
and then the most effective and disturbing um part of that is when he's coming at her with a chainsaw, and they pan down like to her crotch, and she pees her pants.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's like a level of realism
That you
that
don't get very often.
a movie like this normally wouldn't show.
Yeah.
And then she gets like brutally killed. Like, the chainsaw rips through her side, which is really effective.
Yeah, the special effects on that were really well done.
Yeah, and I got something in trivia about that one. But and he takes like her legs. So now he's got arms, legs, head, and a torso. He's got everything he needs for his
But the
girl
shoes
jigsaw
don't fit.
puzzle. Yeah, the shoes fall off, so the shoes don't fit. You must have quit. Oh, that leads to, oh man, the funniest, most infamous scene from this movie, and another scene in this movie where the entire theater just burst out laughing. Uh, and I've actually posted this clip on our YouTube page. I think it might have got copyright blocked or whatever, but you can try to find it. Um, Kendall and Willard go and turn the music off, and then Kendall runs into the locker room because like the door is partially open, and he finds the girl, and he comes like staggering out like all sick looking, and like, it's a gruesome scene. And he's like in the locker room, it's like in the bathroom, and then Willard and Mary run in, and they show the girl like just her top half of her body laying next to the toilet, and there's just blood everywhere and like
Hmm.
guts just hanging out, and like it's one of the most disturbing scenes. And Linda Day George comes out, and she's just like shocked, and oh my God, word for word here, this Kendall's like, "Did you see it?" And she goes, "Yes." It's like, while we're out here fumbling with that music, the lousy bastard was in there killing her. Bastard! 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 It's like screams it 3 times. And it always cracks me up because she has that long pause between the second one and the third one. And you can see the dude playing Kendall, like almost just waiting for his turn to talk. And he's like, "Oh yeah, she's got one more." And she just like screams it at the top of her lungs. It's like, oh my God, it's so funny.
I just like in some of those things I really am just like did you guys really think this through? Did you only have one take? Because like you had to have something better than this.
Yeah.
You had to have.
Oh man. The Juan Piquer Simone's probably like, she nailed it. First try.
Perfect.
Yeah, I don't know what Kendall was doing, but Linda killed it. Oh man. And then we get like Linda meets up with the dean, and like the dean drugs her coffee, and she's like paralyzed. And Kendall realizes like, oh, him and the other cop guy, not Christopher George, but the other one, they realize that it was the dean doing this. And they're like, oh man, Mary was meeting with the dean. So they run over there and they find her, and the dean like jumps out of nowhere and starts like wrestling with Kendall. And then Christopher George comes out of nowhere and has an amazing shot and just shoots him right between the eyes
Yeah.
and drops him. And then they like try to take care of Mary, and like she's all drugged up and can't really do anything other than just like sit there. And so they like get her out of the house, and they cover up the dean. And um the cop says something to Kendall. He's like, you still think you want to be a cop? And he says something about, I don't even remember. And he leans against this closet, and the corpse falls out of it, like the corpse jigsaw puzzle, and like um knocks Kendall over.
Falls on top of him.
Yeah. And then like he gets up, and he's standing there for a second, like trying to figure out what happened, and then all of a sudden the corpse comes to life and like grabs him by the balls and crushes his balls. And like,
And
what? The corpse comes to life. Like, there's nothing supernatural in this movie. And the corpse
yeah.
comes to life, like grabs him by the balls and crushes him
Well,
as he
like
screams.
it basically was kind of ending when the body fell on him and you thought the movie might be over.
Yeah.
And then it kind of does a scene change and it's like a little while later he's like recovered, they've covered the dead body and he's talking with the cop guy again. And they're like, okay, well, let's get you out of here. So he goes, and then he's like, oh, wait, I forgot my jacket. And he turned around. And when he turned, he was like right near the corpse, which, was totally natural for, them to just be hanging around by the corpse. And yeah, like you
Yeah.
said, it's dead. It's a dead corpse, but reached up and crushed his balls. And just like, I remember watching it and I'm just like, what even just happened?
That's what I
Because
felt like too. The first time I watched this with my old roommate, and it got to the end, and that happened. And then we're just like kind of watching it, and then we look at each other and just start burst out laughing.
well, yeah, I mean, you said it so well because it's just like at that point is like supernatural, like out of outside of reality because everything else up until that point was realistic, like somebody killing
Hmm.
someone and trying to put their body parts together and everything. I mean, does it work? No, but like, could you do what they were doing? Sure. But then you have that thing at the end and it's just like what purpose does that serve except for like a final jump scare?
Yep.
So
Yeah. It's completely nonsensical. I mean, that body is made up of what, four different girls?
more maybe? I don't know, but at least
It's
four.
four, yeah. The head from the one girl, the torso from the swimming girl, the arms from the dancer, and the legs from the tennis player.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All sewn together and somehow can come to life and crush Kendall's balls.
Yep. No more women for Kendall.
Yeah. Yeah, he's such a stud. Um, anything else, or do you want me to get into the trivia and facts?
Facts and trivia.
All right. So, because producer Dick Randall was simultaneously making kung fu films in Rome, a cameo for Bruce Lee and imitator Bruce Lee was written into this film, even though the scene makes no sense in the context of the rest of the movie.
Mhm.
So there you go.
Okay.
Most of the guts and gore were actually internal organs from dead animals, with real blood taken from a slaughterhouse.
Oh wow.
So that's why they look so good. So the scene where the girl who pees her pants gets cut, that was actually a pig carcass that was used for the close up and a chainsaw ripping through it.
Oh, that was a pretty good job.
Yeah. Filming commenced in the winter of 1981. The pool scene where the girl's like skinny dipping. Um, she was actually swimming in like freezing cold water and she almost froze to death as a result.
Oh,
Yeah. During a scene where the women in the dance class, director Juan Piquer Simone originally wanted them all to be naked, but Carmen Aguado, who wasn't an actress, rather an aerobics instructor they hired for the part, refused and informed him that dance classes weren't usually done in the nude, as the dancers would always wore tights. Simone wasn't happy about it, but backed down, even though a few extras playing the dance students said they'd be willing to do it. Simone reportedly took down their names and used them for nude scenes later in later movies he did.
okay.
Uh, so the look of the killer was based on the comic book character the Shadow, um, not as often thought as a Giallo inspired character,
Hmm.
which I always thought it was like part Giallo because it kind of reminded me of like the character from Blood and Black Lace.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the black gloves and everything. Uh, so the only trailer released of the final shots showed the chainsaw killer approaching the camera. As this happens, the same screen from Janet Lee and the scene Psycho was used when the killer, or when she gets killed in a shower. So like when the in a trailer, when the guy with the chainsaw is walking towards the camera, they use the screen from Janet Lee in Psycho.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, it was worded really weird.
Yeah.
According to Juan Piquer Simone, he owns the jigsaw puzzle that was used in the film. Um, he showed it in a DVD extra where he's reviewing the posters for his movie.
Rock.
The entire movie was shot in Madrid. Nothing was in Boston because there was no budget for second units. Some USA locations were recycled from Supersonic Man, a movie from 1979. Stock footage from another movie that Juan Piquer Simone directed.
Nice.
According to a 1983 edition of Fangoria magazine, Edward Montoro, president of the distribution company of Ventures International and its sister company, Artist Releasing Corporations, was not interested in pieces, even though horror films were primarily one of its primary products. Producer Stephen um, Manassian convinced Motaro to give the film a chance, telling him, "Go and see it with an audience." The test screening was duly arranged, and Montaro was astonished to see the audience roaring with laughter. They absolutely loved the movie. That's what made me change my mind. I normally wouldn't want this kind of slasher picture, but the audience started laughing right away.
Hmm. I mean, it took me a while to get into like the funny aspect of it,
Yeah,
but I mean, because I mean, I knew from you a little bit that this movie was gonna hinge more kind of on the funny side than the serious side, but
yeah, the inadvertent humor.
I
Yeah,
was kind of waiting for it to hit, and it was more of a gradual thing. So, it would kind of surprise me if people were laughing at it kind of throughout the whole thing.
yeah. So before working on the movie, Simone first received a 30-page treatment of Jigsaw, which is supposed to be made for TV movie. He took the basic idea and wrote the screenplay, limited only by budget possibilities. During shooting, dialogue and scenes were improvised because the screenplay was too short, and Juan also wanted to improve the story to take advantage of some locations.
Hmm.
The original title of the movie was A Thousand Cries of the Night.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
not good.
Pieces is better.
Yep.
So the character Mary Riggs is supposed to be a tennis pro, but Linda Day George's skills were obviously weren't good enough for the movie. as all wide shots showing the ball. And her court cut the same three close-ups repeated. And two of these, she hits the ball, likely pitched directly at her, and another ball isn't even present as she enthusiastically slices the air with her racket, and the sound of ball hitting it was overdubbed. Uh, so the mom asked the boy to bring her a plastic bag to like put the puzzle in. That scene was supposed to take place in 1942, and plastic bags didn't exist then,
Mm,
which is
whoops.
something that Joe Bob mentioned. And then he also said that when the phone is ringing, that's the sound of a touchstone phone, and those didn't exist back in 1942 either.
Oh, geez. Talk about
Yeah,
details.
yeah. So before the fifth victim gets killed, um, that's the girl in the bathroom. She's so terrified that she visibly urinates her sweatpants. This actually happened for real on set, from a real chainsaw being wielded a few centimeters away from the actress. Simone liked the reaction that the girl expressed and left it in the film.
Wait,
So like
she,
her peeing herself and like freaking out like that was her real reaction.
so like, she didn't do it on purpose, like it was a scared reaction?
Yeah,
Weird.
apparently, at least that's what IMDb says. So take that with a grain of salt.
Okay, that seems weird, but okay.
Yeah. And the last thing I got is this movie cost $300,000 and it made 2 million in the box office. So
Successful.
very low budget movie.
Oh.
Grades. IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes, what do you think they are?
IMDb 5.7.
It is a 6.0.
Oh, okay. Rotten Tomato critic 89%.
43.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Rotten Tomato audience 84.
50.
What?
I'm kind of
Wow.
surprised because there's a lot of people that really like this movie.
Yeah.
But I'll let you go first. What do you think of it?
Oh man. So it is weird because it is a horror movie, but it leans into the bizarre
Yeah.
and isn't taken too seriously. So the acting is not super great, but once you kind of get into the groove of this is not going to be your a well polished movie, then you accept it for what it is. Um, it keeps moving really
Hmm.
fast. I mean, it's kind of right there in the nice time frame for how long these movies usually should be. I think it was like an hour and 25 minutes or something. So, special effects were fantastic. Um, I, I I think that we can make a fair comparison between this and a sleepaway camp,
Hmm.
where like they try to give you one final thing and everything. Um, I just feel like if we're making that comparison, Sleepaway Camp actually was thought through and had like a good idea, while
Yeah.
this one was like, hey, we're just gonna have fun with it, which isn't necessarily bad, but it's not like as strong. So, good movie, entertaining, kind of weird because it's serious, not serious. I landed at a 4 out of 5.
Okay. Rock. It's funny you compare it to Sleepaway Camp because it does have some similarities, like inadvertent humor, um, crazy stuff at the end. There's no ending that compares to Sleepaway Camp in my mind as
No.
like a
Yeah.
movie that blew me away the first time I saw it. Um, and I think a lot of that has to do with when Robert Hiltzig made that movie, it was like his passion project. Like he wrote it, he directed it, and like it was um like his baby basically.
Yeah.
And he didn't direct another movie after that until he made Return to Sleepaway Camp. So, and that was years and years later. where with Juan Piquer Simone, it kind of sounded like he was given a script for another movie and he like kind of rewrote it to make it into a movie and then just kind of ad-libbed a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So this was kind of like almost a mistake that it turned out the way it did.
Hmm.
And like you said, the special effects are great. I think some of the performances by the girls in their death scenes are is pretty solid. And I can respect a slasher movie that tries to do something different.
Yeah.
And the whole assembling a human puzzle of body parts is it's completely ridiculous and like disturbing, but it just seems to kind of work. And it's kind of like a great idea for a horror movie. Um, I think the look of the killer is pretty decent. Um, and just the terribleness of some of the dialogue is so funny. And it is a really fast movie. Like comparing this to The Burning, where like
Hmm.
The Burning goes like 45 minutes without anybody getting killed,
Yeah.
to this where it's like you maybe go 10 minutes without somebody getting killed, if that. Um, and it's all crazy gory. So I end up giving it a 5 out of 5 because it's a movie that I really enjoy watching.
Rock.
And I don't know, I just yeah, it's kind of become one of my favorite slasher movies and one of my favorite like borderline awesomely bad movies.
Nice.
Because I would consider this probably awesomely bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. So we've finished that and we should be on to our next movie next time. Man, this is going fast. We are on to The Monster Squad, which is a more family-friendly kind of horror movie. Uh, I always consider it like The Goonies, meet the Universal monsters.
Okay.
So yeah, it's kind of similar to that. It's um got a little more like adult-oriented stuff than The Goonies does, but it's kind of in that same vein. Like those would make a pretty good like double feature. But if you guys are liking the show, please subscribe and share. Follow us on social media. We are on pretty much every platform. Check out our YouTube. I got lots of stuff, horror related stuff on there. Older episodes that we've done in the past. I think by now the entire Nightmare on Elm Street series should be up there, along with the entire Friday the 13th series. So you can check those out. I also have Slasher Quest on there too, where I actually did an episode on pieces. So if you want a little more deep dive into it, and you can see some of the clips there that we talked about. But yeah, come by next time. We're gonna be talking about Monster Squad. And until then, as always, be kind and rewind.